There we go. Unmuted that time. Oh, YouTube. I'm dropping the ball seriously with recording these. The ears are back in jail. It's all gone tits up. But no, seriously, hey, I just been kind of hanging out, chilling, not really doing anything too crazy with the content lately. I literally like abandoned streaming late last night just to go watch a movie with my wife and hang out and just kind of relax. I had a long week of work. Was out in the sun every day, just kind of baking, and I was going to the gym late, just trying to like stay, I guess, in some semblance of a rhythm. But I'm here. I'm with doing my week 4 reaction video. I didn't do a late night reaction last night because again, I just ended up not even streaming at all. I streamed earlier in the day when I had some games on. I was kind of playing some games simultaneously. You could kind of hear the audio of the Michigan USC game going while I did it, which I'll be talking about here in a second. But I want to talk about the week in total, right? So let's go start from the top. And we had games as early as Thursday. I won't front you and say that I have like a litany of opinions on the South Alabama App State game, other than in daily fantasy, I bargained wrong. I went with App State's quarterback, I believe it's Joey Aguilar is his name. And yeah, it turns out that South Alabama was about that smoke, and they absolutely wrecked App State to the tune of 48 points. Yeah, no, not really much to talk about there other than I just picked the wrong team. But let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to switch over here to the stat sheet, and you can see here brought to us by ESPN.com. The real game to talk about earlier on in the weekend would probably be the 3 games that happened on Friday, because if you were taking a sample size and like saying like, oh, this should represent this entire week, right? These 3 games, if you had picked those, would have led everybody to believe that this was going to be the best week in college football, because these 3 games were outstanding. I was watching them Friday night late, just struggle busting my way trying to stay up. I was like, I'm going to get a nap, when I get home from the gym and get some dinner, and like none of that happened. And I was just like, I'm still going to tough it out. I don't think I finished. Yeah, I didn't finish the Washington State game. I ended up going to bed, so I missed that absolute barn burner in overtime. But yeah, no. Stanford on the road at Q's takes them down in their crib. Illinois on the road in Lincoln takes down Nebraska and the Pat Mahomes cosplay expert and Dylan Raiola. And Washington State, a week after upsetting my dogs at Lumen Field in Seattle, they go to overtime against San Jose State, a team with a whole new coaching staff. And they almost lose it. They almost, or as we say in Washington circles, they almost couged it. But they don't. Wazoo's undefeated. Massive congrats to them. And everybody else that won on Friday. The games were a hell of a fucking time to watch. I had a great time just kind of sitting here tired as shit, but like having these at least to entertain me was a good time. Also played a little bit of Risk. And then the reason I actually ended up hopping off early Friday night was to go watch another movie with my wife. I just, how dare I? I've just been, spending time with family. It's okay. I promise I'll commit more time to you people than my own blood, but moving on. So obviously you see right there at the top, this is because they're my favorited team on the ESPN app. But my dogs ended up getting right after a disappointing week last week against the Cougars. And we just absolutely shut down Northwestern. I mean, it shouldn't have even been 5 points on the board, quite frankly. They came out like a little motivated, and it was all for naught. Washington just really shut them down. But I'm not going to spend too much time talking about my team. In the grand scheme of things, this game really just kind of means that Washington's undefeated in Big Ten play and Northwestern isn't. But there's way more important games to talk about. Not even really going to touch too much on Texas' utter obliteration of UL Monroe. Arch Manning gets the start because Quinn Ewers is currently injured, and it was much ado about nothing for that game. Ohio State was close early against Marshall, and then it got very unclose very quickly. Ohio State really ran away with it. There was a couple of officiating miscues that I think kind of opened the door for Ohio State, but long term, I didn't really think Marshall had a a way into the fight, essentially. There was some sparks here and there early, but at the end of the day, this Ohio State team, like the Marshall head coach said, this might be the best team on tape he's ever seen. And it's hard to disagree. I mean, they are just knockout punch after knockout punch after knockout punch with their skill position talent. Will Howard just being very effective with his distribution of the football. I mean, look at him right here, freaking 16 to 20 for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quinshawn Judkins ran up and down, sideways, backways, reverse, all over that Marshall defense all day. 173 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 carries. Absolutely ridiculous. A team that made me a little bit of money, Ole Miss, basically taking on Georgia Southern. And look, I freaking, why am I blanking? Oh my God. I do this at the most inopportune time. Lane Kiffin, Jesus Christ. Lane Kiffin has not made any, or has not minced words about what his goals are, right? Like, we're trying to get Jackson Dart the Heisman. So who do I draft in daily fantasy? I'm going to draft Jackson Dart, okay? 22 of 31 for 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. Thank you very much. Paris Jr., 13 carries, 89 yards, 1 touchdown. Drafted him too. The one that I didn't get because I couldn't afford him with my daily fantasy points was Trey Harris. 11 receptions, 225 yards for freaking 2 touchdowns. I had some buddies in my my college fantasy league. One of them's got him on his team, and my God, like my receivers on my team have been relatively consistent, but like just sort of on the mid end of production value. And yeah, the guy that got Trey Harris, needless to say, he ended up winning this week. But let's talk about the game of the week. College game day goes to Norman, right? I mean, Josh Pate's there from late kick. Everybody that's anybody is there, unless you're the Fox Big Noon kickoff, which actually Big Noon kickoff wouldn't have been for the USC Michigan game because that game started at 2:30 my time. I think the Big Noon kickoff was Ohio State Marshall, if I have that correct. Either way, Tennessee goes into Norman. The final score makes it look like it was a little bit closer than it was, but just look at this right here. This is the tell, okay? You see nothing going on for Oklahoma offensively speaking until the fourth quarter. They put up 12 points late. Tennessee was in control of this game. Like their offense, I think a lot of people are going to look at that and say, you know, oh, Nico should be better than that. We were kind of led to believe that this offense was going to be able to light up everybody. Oklahoma's defense is good, okay? And Tennessee's defense is better, I think. But the simple fact of the matter is that despite the fact that Tennessee wasn't just hanging 1,000 yards on them like they have been the rest of their nothing opponents that they've played earlier in the season, the fact that Tennessee's offense, despite playing a very stingy Oklahoma defense, was able to still manage a handful of big plays in crucial junctures of the game in order to seize control and maintain momentum in their favor says everything for me, right? No, it wasn't always the 89-yard touchdown bomb or Dylan Sampson just actually running the ball down everybody's throat, but look, this Tennessee team is legit. Like this is a statement win for them. I think that if I'm Oklahoma, if I'm a fan of Oklahoma, I'm a bit concerned because freaking Jackson Arnold gets benched in favor of a true freshman who we're hearing from within the camp that like they really like him. But this is the guy that ran Dylan Gabriel out of town. Like this is the guy that's the reason Dylan Gabriel is an Oregon Duck this season. And he was supposed to be the guy that was going to elevate Oklahoma, but your offensive line injuries and depth have really kind of hampered what I think your offensive ceiling was expected to be this year. And now here we are coming out of week 4, you're 0-1 in the SEC, and I don't think you're concerned about making a bowl game, but I think in regards to maybe proving people wrong about where you would sort of slot into the SEC in your first year, the expectations that you were expecting to shatter, I think those expectations are going to kind of hold firm. And that's for me. Now, talking about a team with expectations that maybe won't hold serve, Missouri. What's going on here? This was an overtime game. This game wasn't even really on my radar too much. I know that if you're a Vanderbilt fan, you're probably, chastising me in private. But while I liked what I saw from Vandy in week 1 against Virginia Tech, this Missouri team was supposed to be way more than this. Okay. After all, like we can sit here and like, and I know what SEC shills are going to do and be like, well, that's SEC play for you. If anybody wants to go back and show me the receipts of literally anybody paying any sort of positive homage to Vanderbilt over the past, I'd say 6 to 8 months, please let me know. Like, please let me know. Because while they do bring in Diego Pavia from UNLV, I believe it was, either UNLV or New Mexico State, one of the New Mexico teams. I'll have to fact check myself on that one. But basically, USC got either the UNLV or New Mexico quarterback, and Vanderbilt got the other one, is what I remember. But even if you're excited about him coming in, you're like looking at this Vanderbilt team, and it's like, this Missouri team is the one that smacked Ohio State in a New Year's Six Bowl last year. And Ohio State looks like the best team in the country right now. So why is Vanderbilt even like remotely in the conversation of beating you late in a game in week 4? I think that if I had watched this whole game, I might have a little bit more of a like strong opinion on the matter. I will just tell you that the little bit that I did see, it just seemed like while Missouri wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong offensively, Vanderbilt was just answering. And it kind of reminds me of a game last year where Missouri plays LSU in what is essentially a shootout of just like, okay, who's going to not score next, right? Because we've been scoring all day. When's that going to end? And if I'm a Missouri fan, I'm thankful for the win, obviously, but is Vanderbilt really the kind of team that you want to be saying those sort of things about this early in the season when you're the 7th ranked team in the country and you're kind of largely thought of as being an at-large bid contender for the playoff? I don't know. Now to go in the opposite direction, let's talk about Miami down here at number 8. Okay, so what do I like about this score? Okay, early on in the first half, USF is making this a ball game. Okay, Alex Galesh is going to get the head coaching job at a Power 4 program sometime in the near future. People need to make peace with that right now. He's an outstanding coach, but he at South Florida does not have the kind of weapons necessary to go toe-to-toe with these programs, and yet he's consistently making life difficult for them when they play against his USF Bulls. What Miami did this week is a little bit different than what Bama did against USF. Bama went largely 3 quarters toe-to-toe with this team, and in the 4th quarter the game just kind of gets away from USF, and Bama just kind of capitalizes. Whereas what I saw from Miami realized, oh, you're gonna play us tough, foot meet gas pedal, we're going to bury you now. Like, we were playing maybe not necessarily conservative, but we've had this in us the entire time, and we're not waiting for you to get tired to dictate a pace necessary for us to be able to do this. No, we're dictating the pace. We're putting our foot down, and we are going to take this ball game down the road so far that we're going to be done filling our tank by the time you get to the gas station. Like, that kind of pace change. Cam Ward, I believe, is still the Heisman betting favorite right now, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be. Okay, 24, 34, 404 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I don't know what to tell you. Like, Miami's a good football team. I think there's a lot of people that might not be necessarily prepared to admit that or what have you, but it's the gosh darn truth. And that is where we find ourselves on this 22nd of September in the year of our Lord 2024. as crazy as it might sound. So moving on, Penn State matters. Kent State, nothing really to talk about there. Let's talk about the game of the day, though, and that is USC on the road in Ann Arbor taking on the Michigan Wolverines. If I'm a UFC or USC fan waking up on Sunday, I am disappointed but proud of my team. A lot of the things that people have said that this team is not capable of, they proved otherwise in this game. Now, I didn't say everything that they were accused of not being capable of. Winning the big game when it matters most, that box is still unchecked. Michigan should never have been in a situation to get back into this game. Your defense did so good of taking what was the most one-dimensional offensive approach I think I have seen in recent memory, and they stifled it for the better part of 4 quarters. And then the adjustments on offense at halftime, coming back roaring to 14 unanswered points, was phenomenal. It's like you're looking at this and it's like, okay, Lincoln Riley, this is what we wanted. We wanted you to demonstrate an ability to respond to adversity, to alter the play calling in a manner that was going to afford you the best opportunity to come back and win this game. A lot of people said that if Michigan got out to an early lead, USC was not going to be able to come back from it because Michigan was going to be able to dictate the pace of this game, and USC wasn't going to have an answer for Michigan's defense if the defense was the biggest problem for USC, which it was, right? USC proved them wrong. USC ended up leading this game in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and it took a Michigan drive, kind of like in the Rose Bowl last year, to come back and seal the victory. Now, where do I stand with both programs at the conclusion of this? Well, I think Michigan's defense obviously is really good, right? And then the question becomes like, okay, well, how many teams are they going to play on their schedule that can mitigate their run first, run second, run third, and then in case of fire, break glass and run fourth offense, right? Who's going to be able to do that? Who's going to be able to stop that? Probably just Ohio State, right? You think. I mean, they haven't been able to do it the past 3 years, or at least not consistently enough to get a victory against them. But Oregon hasn't demonstrated anything giving me any sort of confidence that they're going to be able to have that kind of success. My Huskies, I mean, the defense is playing great against lower level competition, but like Michigan's a whole other animal in the trenches than anything that we've played so far this season. So is it going to be us? Probably not, right? Who? Where's the game on their schedule that they get ousted or exposed the way that USC had a chance to do so yesterday? I don't know, right? And then if you're USC, like I said, like you're probably disappointed, but like, look, kid, dust yourself off and get back into this. Yeah, you're 0-1 in Big Ten play, but the same question for Michigan now stands for you too. Who else on your schedule do you see as an immediate threat to the kind of momentum and the kind of talent that you have shown yourself capable of so far? You host Wisconsin next week, win, okay? Like, and then who is it? You don't play Oregon, okay? Penn State is also coming to your crib later, and Penn State has already shown weaknesses against Bowling Green on offense. Like, their defense is letting Bowling Green put up that kind of points on there. You're better than that, okay? And your defense just showed that you're physical enough to go toe-to-toe with Michigan, even if you don't win the fight. Is Penn State's offense going to be as physical as that? I think they'll be more multiple. You're going to actually have to worry about the ball traveling through the air, and that presents in and of itself some significant challenges, right? Because can USC sustain the kind of heightened defensive expectations that we have for them now? But again, like, where's the game that we're worried about USC the same way that we were a few months ago? I don't know. So they're still in this as far as I'm concerned. You're 2-1 on the season, and sure, you're 0-1 in Big Ten play, I think that win column number is just going to get bigger and bigger, quite frankly. Utah, no Cam Rising, no problem. All right. I think with a full week to prepare, freaking, oh God, what is this? Yeah, Zach Wilson's little brother. He doesn't, light up the stat sheet, but Micah Bernard, on the other hand, 25 carries for 182 yards. Yeah, we like that. Brent Keithy led the team in receptions. Also got me a little bit of money in daily fantasy. I drafted him. And Oklahoma State, they had a late surge in the fourth quarter, but look at this right here. I mean, this says it all. 3 points in the first quarter, and then a big fat nothing burger in the second and the third. I just, a team that was able to put up the kind of points that they did against Arkansas 2 weeks ago to come out and do this. And then also, like, look, I have nothing but respect for Utah's defense, but where in the world is Ollie Gordon? Seriously. This guy, I'm pretty sure he has the highest stats in CFB 25 of any running back in the game. I'm going to need you guys to show me a reason why, because last year seems to be a bit more of an anomaly than the standard coming from that player. So we'll see. We'll see. And then talking about disappointments, Kansas State. Are we okay? Kansas State? We there? Yeah, nobody. Wow. I didn't stay up to finish this game. I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it would have probably just been like watching a public execution. But my God, like, I don't want to be disrespectful of teams, especially in light of recent success. But like, is BYU the kind of team that we're looking at this and being like, yeah, that's a team that should be taking down the 13th ranked team in the country? I'm not sure that I feel that way. All right. I'm not going to lay into this one too much because, again, I didn't really stay up to watch it. But the UCLA LSU game, that one I did watch. And UCLA, bravo for making this a game in the first half. WTF to where'd you go in the second half? Did you not know there was 2 halves of football that you had to play? Like, my Lord. Garrett Nussmeier, 32 of 44, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns. I absolutely picked the wrong running back in daily fantasy. Durham had a great week last week against South Carolina and was largely nowhere to be found this game. But bravo on LSU, second half adjustments, coming out and being like, okay, UCLA, like, you want to play? Let's find out. And they found out. They found out quick. I'm going to see this today if it hasn't already happened, which it probably has. But I'm going to see Notre Dame go up in the rankings, in spite of the fact that the team that beat them lost this weekend as a ranked opponent. We'll get to them later. But Miami of Ohio is 0-3. I think the Red Hawks were expected to be a little bit better than we've seen so far this season. And your quarterback leads the team in rushing and passing. And we're just fine with that in South Bend. We're just fine with it. That's totally like a kid with injury history and everything attached with that. We're good. We're Gucci. This is fine. This is a playoff team. And they're going to have a rank consistent with those kind of expectations when I actually open up the rankings here in a minute. Guaranteed. And I don't think that they should. But hey, just me. What do I know? I'm just a past his prime father of 2 doing this for the memes. Louisville, good game against Georgia Tech. I had this one up. I expected Georgia Tech to make this a bit more of a fight, and they did for one half of football, and then they just really couldn't sustain any sort of offensive success. Now, Louisville's defense was very good last year. I don't think everybody expected a big drop off going into the season. If anything, it was going to be a marginal recession. Good job. I mean, holding them to 19 points. I mean, Haynes King, the better quarterback, statistically speaking. Louisville didn't need it, right? They stayed consistent on the field, and that is always going to win games more than being consistent on a stat sheet, right? Iowa State, absolute juggernaut, that they are, going to hosting Arkansas State and sending them home with 2 black eyes, and they would have been a third if they could. But yeah, I didn't really have eyes on this game. I didn't really think it was going to be much of anything. It is interesting to see what a team like Iowa State was capable to do offensively against this team as opposed to what Michigan did last week. So, hey, our expectations of one team versus another. This is the transient properties of college football, right? Like, transitive properties of college football. We look at what this team did against this opponent versus what the other team did against them, and we just naturally assume that is indicative of what the head-to-head results would reflect. I don't know that that's the case here, but hey, bravo to the Cyclones. Let's talk about another team that I actually heard people saying not quite ready to buy into an offensive reformation. And while I don't think NC State might be the team that people thought they could be going into this season, you hung 59 against them. It's not bad. Cade Klubnik went absolutely bonkers. 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. Phil Maffa over 100 yards on the ground on 7 carries. 7. I may not be great at math, but the yards per carry figure on that is pretty not shitty. Yeah, and then the leading receiver in this game was Jolly from NC State, 72 yards. Interesting little fact there. But yeah, well done to the Tigers. We talked about this earlier. Buffalo's the best team in the country, so naturally Northern Illinois didn't stand a chance. No, I mean, what did people expect? Northern Illinois beats Notre Dame in South Bend. They get a ranking from it, and suddenly they lose to Buffalo. But Notre Dame's going to go up in the rankings. I guarantee you that. Why? Beats the heck out of me. I didn't watch this game. I don't really know that I needed to. I know that there's a lot of, I wouldn't say hype around Buffalo, but there, I believe, is a come from behind win last week. A lot of people liked. That said, I mean, it's just, I think I mentioned this in my week 3 reaction video, or my week 2 reaction video, but anybody else see Northern Illinois being a top 25 team by the end of the season? Probably not, right? So we just ranking people to rank people. All right, that's your prerogative. Go for it. Let us see. This is inaccurate, I believe. Yeah, this is only showing ranked teams right now. When I want to see more. There we go. Okay, so we had the top 25 front loaded. Texas A&M. Either Bowling Green is the best team in the MAC, which they very well could be, or Texas A&M and Penn State are not as good as we think. One of those things is going to show itself eventually. It has to, right? And I'm very interested to find out the answer when we get there, because I haven't seen anything from Texas A&M that's made me think highly of them so far. This is just one more thing that I'm looking at and saying, like, okay, all them stars from the recruiting rankings, and we're in a 1-possession game against Bowling Green. And for the record, being the best team in the MAC is good for being the best team in the MAC and pretty much nothing else. So WTF. Billy Napier saves his job. Absolutely flatlines Mississippi State. I'm going to kind of go lightning round here and just give my thoughts. Oh, no lightning round. But let us talk about anybody that didn't bet the over on JMU versus North Carolina. almost 1,200 total yards of offense in this game. The defenses for both of these teams should be absolutely embarrassed. Whether they rode a bus, whether they rode a plane, whether they rode in their mom's Civic hatchback back home because they got cut in the locker room. What the actual fadoodle cake happened here? That's 120 points scored in a game. This is a college basketball game total. Holy shit, dude. Speaking of college basketball, Houston takes on Cincinnati, does nothing. Moving on. Kansas loses a heartbreaker to West Virginia. And I think a lot of people are kind of the book's out on Jalen Daniels at this point. I don't think he's the guy that's sorry. I don't think he's the guy that's going to read a defense and dissect a coverage and make a play like that. Andy Kotelnicki, I mentioned this in a previous reaction video, but Andy Kotelnicki being able to scheme guys wide the F open last year for him and Justin Mean, it was fantastic for this offense, but Andy Kotelnicki's in Happy Valley now. And he's not in Lawrence. So something's going to have to give here. And I'm not sure what it is. Like Kansas returning to earth and becoming an essentially irrelevant, portion of the Big 12 can't be where Lance Leipold sees this program going moving forward. The expectations were high going into the season, and granted, it's a 4-point loss to a West Virginia team that I think is a lot better than people have expected the last two seasons, but Kansas was supposed to be better. West Virginia wasn't. Like, that's kind of the point. So yeah, tough L to swallow. 1-3, 0-1 in Big 12 play. I mean, this is a team that everybody thought was going to be in the top 4, maybe top 5 odds to win the Big 12, and now it's like, are they even going to make a bowl game? It's that serious. So yeah, tough break to be a Jayhawk, or tough day to be a Jayhawk. Oh, let's see. I can feel another yawn coming. Yep. Oh, fantastic. Arkansas goes on the road and takes down Auburn. I didn't do a locks pick for this week. I think I got something kind of cooking in the lab about what I'm going to do that moving forward. And we'll see. Yeah, so I was leaning pretty heavy Arkansas on this one. Peyton Thorne coming back in as a starter tells me everything I need to know about what's going on in the locker room in Auburn. Because when they bring out, I believe it was Hank Brown last week, and now Peyton Thorne's back under center. The old adage, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. I think that applies here. I think some teams can be an exception to that. This ain't one of them. Yeah, no, I think that Hugh Freeze needs to do some soul searching here and figure out, what his goals and aspirations for this season are, because, I think, sorry, I just noticed on camera I had a little like fuzzy or something on my shoulder. But I think Hugh Freeze's expectations coming into the season was, hey, we're gonna sell big in the portal to get skill position players and developmental pieces, and then we're gonna go all in for a quarterback for 2025. But I think your quarterback issues in 2024 could potentially be jeopardizing the amount of like talent that you have around that 2025 quarterback, because you got to get this program back on track. Like, these players, they need to stay bought in. And if this is the kind of result, 2-2, 0-1 in SEC play against a team like Arkansas, where a lot of people are waiting for Sam Pittman's job to get called into question, and meanwhile he's 3-1 with what looks to be a pretty damn well improved offense. Maybe the wrong coach has heat right now, is all I'm saying. Rutgers, close game against Virginia Tech. I didn't watch this one. Basel Tootin did get me some decent points from my college fantasy league, so we like that. Washington playing Rutgers on Friday night this week. Looking forward to that. Should be interesting to see what my dogs do against this team. I think a lot of people are looking at Rutgers going into this season as having a very manageable schedule. I think we're going to learn a lot more about Washington. This will be their first road game of the year, and Virginia Tech dropping to 2-2. Yeah, I mean, I I don't want to say that people oversold on what Brent Pry's program was going to be this year. I think either one of two things has happened. Either maybe we were a bit unrealistic with our expectations, or two, maybe the players listened too closely. I don't know. It's not like it was a completely abysmal effort. Like, they made a strong push in the fourth quarter to try and get back into this game. But if you look at Rutgers' points, moving throughout the game, they had it pretty well in hand. And if I had to guess, if I go back and I watch the All-22, I'm going to see something that resembles a Rutgers team essentially just kind of coasting to the finish line on this one, and maybe got a little too close for comfort, while Virginia Tech sees an opportunity to get themselves back into this game when their opponent wasn't necessarily expecting them to be able to. Yeah. UMass, a win in the column, against Central Connecticut. We love to see it. Pittsburgh, you're playing Youngstown State. I'm not giving you bandwidth. I'm sorry. But the numbers look great. Good for you. Arizona State, heartbreaking loss to Texas Tech. Cam Scatabo was putting up some pretty serious points. 6 receptions, 117 yards. When you're the team's leading receiver as a running back, I got questions. All right. Levitt puts up 282 yards total, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Arizona State under Kenny Dillingham, I think, is going to continue on an upward trajectory. I think I expected a little bit more in year 2. Maybe that's just on me, though. I don't want to be a little too overbearing on a program that I think that if you look at it like globally, I shouldn't be expecting so much. But here we are. Navy beat Memphis. I didn't even know this. I didn't even see this. So the team that beats FSU in Doak Campbell loses to Navy, and Navy's undefeated. All right, Navy AAC champions, maybe. We'll see. UTSA lets Houston Christian score on them. Absolutely appalling. Couldn't have been me. Okay, let's talk about a game. I did not see this coming. Okay. I picked Josh Hoover in daily fantasy, and he didn't fail me, okay? 28 of 43, 396 yards, 3 touchdowns. The boy scored points for me. What the fuck did SMU do in the week to go from an offense that couldn't decide which quarterback to start? And I know the response is going to be, well, they decided which quarterback they were going to start. But 66 points? 66 points. If I had all the money in the world, I don't know that I would have laid a money line for SMU. I don't know that I would have. I did not see this coming at all. I thought that TCU and Josh Hoover were going to sling the rock across the field all day, and turns out they did. But SMU just did it more. And the fact that Jennings doesn't even eclipse Hoover's numbers on this as a passer, and yet this is the score. Props to SMU. 2-1 so far in ACC play. Or is this, hang on, let me see. They've played. No, they haven't. Okay. So they're just 2-1 at home. Got it. All right. My mistake. Let's go back down. Let's find some more stuff to chit-chat about, or chat shit, if you prefer that. Please tell me we're almost done. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay, where is it? I know I'm going to find it. Cal. The Calgorithm has been broken. The nerds on Twitter have lost. But did FSU really win? 14 points. against Cal at home. I This is one of those ones where I am finding it difficult to decide which team's fan base should be more disappointed right now. Honestly, if I'm a Cal fan, I'm probably like, "Oh, come on. You telling me we couldn't capitalize on this FSU team? And now we're fucking 0-1 in ACC play?" And if I'm Florida State, it's like our season's been done since week 1, or I guess week 0 technically. But 14 points against Cal, who I'm fairly certain most FSU fans didn't even know was a college until about 2 days ago when they saw the schedule, who they were playing Saturday night. Like, my God, dude. What an absolute snooze fest this game was. I'm just saying it right now. DJ Uiagalelei, the idea that that guy, like that he stuck at Clemson as long as he did, or that Dabo Swinney stuck with him at Clemson as long as he did, is becoming more and more of an anomaly to me each day. Like I don't get it, man. I don't get it. I don't understand how the recruiting agencies, how the talent evaluators for Clemson, like the University of Clemson, got it that wrong. And then also the fact that he had like a fairly decent season with Jonathan Smith last year in Oregon State. It's just I man, don't get it. I don't get it. Iowa scores 31 points. Extra, extra. Read all about it. 3 of those touchdowns came from their running back. Not really a secret here. I drafted him in daily fantasy. I kind of had a feeling like, hey, when you see a pattern, maybe buy into that pattern. Iowa doesn't really have a downfield passing attack. They're going to run the ball and run it often, and they're going to be decent at doing so until they play a team that can stop them. So there you go. I missed the conclusion of this game. Okay, so this game was tied late, I want to say, and I was trying to get a broadcast of it. What the fuck? And I wanted to see how it ended, and I didn't get to, and that's on me, quite frankly, because I had every ability to see this game finish. But Boston College taking down Michigan State, man. I believe BC was favored in this game. I did kind of go back and forth. I think I did have Nate Calandria picked in a couple of my daily fantasy drafts, and the fact that Aiden Childs led this game with 241 yards and 3 interceptions with no touchdowns, and Calandria couldn't best that to end up on the old board here, probably tells me why I didn't win any money on those drafts. But hey, good for BC getting the W. Now let's talk about a game that we're going to be hearing way too much about, so I'm going to be brief. Colorado, you're not good. Baylor, what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. Dave Aranda might have lost his job with this game. If there's a... Hang on, let me see. Nope. No fire announced yet, but you gave up the Hail Mary pass from Shedeur Sanders to LaJohntay Wester, and then you can't close in overtime against a Colorado team that is just... Look, I'm saying this team is smoke and mirrors, okay? It is propped up by a handful of guys with larger-than-life personalities and average to slightly above average play on the field. Like, Travis Hunter, great player. Remarks complete. Shedeur Sanders literally has everything tailor-made to him. When he ends up in the league and an offensive coordinator looks him in the eyes and says, "This ain't your daddy's team. You're running my offense. And if you can't, then the only thing you're going to be running is your mouth on Twitter. What are you going to do about it? What's he going to do about it? I said I wasn't going to say much. I'm moving on. This game was ridiculous. The idea that Baylor caved like that, I still baffles me. The only thing I really have to say about this Fresno State game is that I had no idea that Malik Sherrod was not going to be the starting running back. I don't know how I missed it. I drafted him in daily fantasy, got a fat nothing burger from it. I'm pretty upset about that, but I did expect Fresno to win by a greater margin. So props to New Mexico for making it a bit more of a game than I expected. Although if I look at this breakdown here, it might just be that, Fresno kind of let them score some points in the fourth quarter because it looked like a whole lot of nothing happening for the first three. Oregon State gets the win against Purdue. So had they gotten the invitation, I guess, that they would be undefeated in Big Ten play right now. My apologies. Sorry, Bees. You lost to Oregon last week. I almost forgot. Didn't watch this game. The late slate I didn't really have eyes on. Boise State absolutely just destroys Portland State. Didn't expect anything else. Ashton Genty's numbers, I think I expected more. But it doesn't look like the starters were in this game for very long if I look. Good for them. And then Hawaii takes on Northern Iowa, and that is week 4. A little bit of a look ahead to week 5. And let's see here. So these are conference schedules. No. Just go FBS. Boom. So we already talked about the Washington-Rutgers game on Friday. We've also got Vautech taking on Miami. So 2 pretty good Friday games to have, if you ask my personal opinion. Kentucky at Ole Miss. We'll just kind of cover some top 25 stuff. Is Michigan on upset alert against Minnesota? Probably not, but we'll see. K-State hosting Oklahoma State. This was, I think, a game a lot of people had circled earlier in the season. I don't think that it's necessarily an uncircled game at this point, but the way that Kansas State looked against BYU, I mean, they're not going to be ranked, I don't think, unless the ranking. Oh, wait, no. They went from 13 to 23rd. Okay, so these are the updated rankings that I'm looking at right now. But anyway, yeah, so, Oklahoma State, I think, should be favored in this game. But again, I'm going to need some kind of consistency from either one of these teams, before I feel too comfortable. But if I have to pick one right now, I'm going Oklahoma State. BYU in the top 25 at 22, going to Baylor. That could be the game that, Dave Aranda loses his job if they lose that one, if he doesn't get announced as fired by the end of the week. If I do see anything unranked matchup that I think is interesting, I might bring it up as we move down. But I already mentioned Wisconsin going on the road against USC. Louisville going to Notre Dame. I mean, Louisville's defense isn't bad. Notre Dame's offense is kind of ass. Could this be where Notre Dame finally gets ousted? I'm taking Arkansas over Texas A&M right now. I'm telling you right now. Picking that one. The TCU Kansas game should be fun. Colorado UCF, the Black and Gold Bowl. I like that. I like UCF too. Oklahoma on the road at Auburn. 2 disappointing teams in the SEC going off against one another. Auburn, Jordan Hare being one of the toughest places to play in the country, hasn't really borne a lot of fruit so far this season. Let's see if they can finally get that tree to finish wilting. And be interesting to see who comes out at quarterback for Oklahoma, right? Mississippi State on the road at Texas. Should be an absolute bludgeoning. Clemson hosting Stanford. Saw a lot of good things from Stanford on offense. Going up against Syracuse. I just think Clemson's defense is a whole different animal. Ohio State on the road finally against Michigan State. I don't think that East Lansing is going to be an environment that if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm too terribly worried about. But the big game, there it is. Georgia going to Tuscaloosa. College game day is going to be there. Calling it. I don't even know if it's been announced yet, but I'm just saying, if it's not there, why? Big game breakdown for this one. probably cover this in full. I definitely have a lot of opinions on this, a lot of questions. A game that I don't think a lot of people did have circled in the same time slate that I'm gonna have some eyes on. This Illinois Penn State game, man, I'm so psyched for this one. I love Tom Fernelli from the Cover 3 podcast. He's an Illinois alum. I'm so happy to see this team doing good things. But this this game, I mean, this could reshape a lot of people's expectations for what the Big Ten, like, or at least the top half of the Big Ten, is going to look like moving forward for the rest of the season. Because if Illinois can continue to ride this momentum and challenge a Penn State team that hasn't looked every bit of what it was expected to be in terms of preseason expectations, it'll be interesting. A game I'm going to preemptively take the over on: South Alabama, LSU. Now, LSU should be able to handle this game. The problem is South Alabama's offense did unspeakable things to App State. Now, App State's defense could just be verifiably roadside garbage, but LSU's defense really not spectacularly improved from last season. Not terrible, not worse, better, but better enough. I don't know. This is like one of those, like, I think LSU should win, but I think South Alabama's going to put up some points. Florida State, SMU. SMU seems to be clicking now. Florida State, still dog shit, even coming off of their first win of the season. Keep an eye on that one. Cincinnati at Texas Tech. Cincy, playing relatively decent. Texas Tech, bit wishy-washy. I like that game. Wazoo, Boise State, that's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game. Watch that game. Watch that game. Boise State being ranked and Wazoo not being ranked, crime. We call it right now. Arizona at Utah, should be a fun game. We'll see. And then Oregon on the road at UCLA in the 10 o'clock slot. It's going to be a good week. I like this week. It's going to be fun. But hey, thanks for being here. I will catch you guys next time. And I'm going to try and be a little bit more dedicated to doing this religiously. But look, man, I make no promises. I'm just kind of doing this as, like, the vibe, hits. But I'm always going to prioritize my family and my free time and everything else like that first. I'll get this in when I can. But I appreciate anybody that has been here for being here in the past, and anybody that does come in the future. Pause. I appreciate you. All right. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.